Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil. As always, we're bringing you the Reasonably Effective podcast. This is the fourth episode, episode 3, and today we're going to be talking about some interesting things. But first of all, how has your week been in Pokemon and in general?
Yeah, it's been a good week in Pokemon for me. I've been doing a little Dialga. I had some middle challenges and just went looking for a standard deck and said, hey, why don't I go with Dialga using the old build? I guess what's the Turbo Dialga with Mew because Mew makes everything so fast. It's a deck list to me. It looks like a pile of garbage, but yet it just works so often, more often than it should. It's a fun deck. So I've been enjoying that this week.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
it's a weird list though, because it's the one with the 2/2 Dialga and the Zacian that you don't ever attack with, right?
right. I mean, you're attacking with a two prizer in Dialga V Star, but you only play two copies of it. And it really even powering up a second one's often problematic because it takes you want five energy for the V Star attack. And yeah, and you're just kind of switching these Mews around. But a lot of times by turn two, even you can actually sometimes get off the V Star attack and take back to back turns with like three, four prizes. So it's really fun when it works.
Yeah, I guess so. But
And you don't sound so convinced, but how's your Pokemon week been going?
It's not been great. I think you know why, but it's been okay. I've been messing around with control as I do. I've been playing this like messing with single price Ditto as well with some spread stuff. I haven't been doing that much Pokemon, but I've been looking at the if you watch my channel, you'll notice I've done some like card design analysis videos, which are pretty fun, looking at just how Pokemon like designs their cards and then how well they're designed because there are a lot of really badly designed cards, but then there are some really interesting ones as well. So taking a look at that's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting to discuss. So yeah, some good videos people should check out. But as you said, your week hasn't been good, which leads us into our first topic, because that's because of Live and the announcement regarding that and the end of support for PTCGO. Right. So that's news you have not received well, correct?
Yeah, and I have a question. I haven't actually looked into this too much. I probably should have, but I don't enjoy looking into it. But did they
Yeah.
actually announce an end of PTCGO? I heard, I've seen videos and people are saying this is the end of PTCGO, but is that actually what they said? Did they give a date for that or not?
No, and that's right, and that's a good point. No, they did made no announcement for the end of PTCGO. So if you haven't had seen the announcement, we both I know I have a video on it on my channel. You probably 10 Types probably does also, and I have a link to the actual announcement in my video. What they said is with Scarlet and Violet, that's only going to be added to live. And with PTCGO, they're not going to add any cards past Crown Zenith, which are already there. They're not going to rotate, which makes sense because they're not going to have the new cards added. And they're not going to make the change with the tool cards. So PTCGO is going to continue for some undefined amount of time, and standard format is frozen to what it is now. So if you really want to play PTCGO, you can just play Lugia forever.
Yeah, so I am looking at PTCGO. If you're like listening to this, not watching, I'm looking at PTCGO, and I'm looking at the newest cards, and the newest cards are the Scarlet and Violet starters. They're
Oh, that's right.
G Block. Do you know what the situation with them is then?
Oh, that's right. I didn't think about that. Right. There's three of them. Is that correct?
There's three,
Or
but there's
there's
two cards for each, so there's six.
okay, six in total. I obviously they've been added to PTCGO, and I guess they're staying, but I don't believe they're going to add more. Yeah, you're right. I'm surprised they added them in. But I guess obviously it has to do with the contract with Direwolf. Now the other part of the announcement from Pokemon is they said the reason behind this is so they can put more resources into development of live. So I think they didn't want, they had a set budget for the online client in total. So it was split between PTCGO and live. So now it can essentially all go to live because PTCGO shouldn't take much just for maintenance at this point. Uh,
Yeah,
so that's where we're at with that. And it leaves us in a very funny spot, right? Uh, because live is it's still a beta. they didn't announce the end of beta, and PTCGO is going to continue as far until the beta ends. That's still in effect, as far as I know. And in live is fairly buggy. We all know that visually it's not good. Deck builder's not good. You can't, if you're make a video, you can't really show your deck list within live. There's a lot of issues. The visuals just are unattractive. Certain cards don't work. It can crash, matchmaking issues. There's all that, and I think we're going to have, if you want to play the standard format when Scarlet and Violet comes out, you can only do that in live, but you're going to be in a buggy beta at that point, or you can go on PTCGO with the old cards and the old rules even, but probably the pool of players playing PTCGO is just going to continue to diminish. That's kind of the situation I think we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think one other thing that I think is important it might not be that important to note, but there are actually other ways of playing. Of course, there's IRL, but then in terms of online, there are some other not official options that I
Yeah.
wouldn't really recommend. They're not particularly good, but there's I believe Untap and Tabletop Simulator, as well as there's a
Hmm.
program developed by Limitless, which isn't really intended to play the game, but can kind of be used that way. Um, but they
Right.
exist, and someone could in the future pop up with something that's more like actually made to do this, and that could end up replacing um, like live or PCGO if because it really feels like, let's be honest, Pokemon isn't really caring about this. They're not caring about the online client. So if they really just let it rot, then something else might end up developing, or it could like completely disappear as a whole. As a whole.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen, and it's already happening some, is the IRL players who, while they're just a small percentage of the people playing on the online client, they have a big voice, right? A lot of the major channels on YouTube and such are competitive players. That's how they get known. So there already been complaints about players from it. In fact, Europe, the European International, I believe, occurs like the weekend when rotation hits, I think. So if they're going to prep for that, they normally they would use PTCGO. Now they're going to have to use live with it, but that's buggy. So they may be forced to do other means. But they're gonna be a big voice complaining about it. I don't think Pokemon's going to like that. So hopefully, the positive is hopefully that live gets sorted out quickly. But I think we're looking at a very messy situation. IRL players, competitive players are certainly going to be unhappy, and those competitive players, I think, that may look for alternative programs out there. If they find something, it could make things very awkward long term, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I don't really care about IRL competitive, but yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that happening because, like, I mean, let's be honest, IRL players, well, all Pokemon players are pretty fussy, but yeah, that we could see actual actions being taken. Right now, people are complaining. Pretty much I'd say probably 95% of the things I've heard said about this decision to stop kind of stop PCGO.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of negative things because realistically, it's live. I guess it's my time. I don't like live. So live is very buggy, and as you said,
Hmm.
I haven't played it that much, but there have been numerous bugs. Not they get patched eventually, I guess. Not all of them have been patched. That's
Yeah.
also true for PTGO, but it's very buggy, and every new update they add more bugs. Realistically, I think they probably add as many as they remove, so it's not looking great. As you said, the Pokemon Company is hopefully going to be allocating resources that it was spending on PTGO towards PTG Live, which will be really important. But hopefully that'll help. But I'm not overly confident. I honestly think that they might just not allocate those resources to PTCG Live. They'll just like keep the money because as I said, I don't really think they care that much. Also, they spend a lot of effort on how the game looks, which isn't really good, especially because the game doesn't actually look that good. Of course, in the recent update, they added some more visuals, which actually look pretty cool, like a background board thing. Except it causes the game to lag, so it actually made the game worse. And this is like, let's say about half of their updates have made the game better, and half have made the game worse, which is which is clearly bad. But yeah, they gotten all these like weird, I'd say, and many people have described it, the avatars, as this, they're very soulless, and then for some reason they've done a lot of hexagon designs as well, which is kind of weird
Mhm.
instead of Pokeballs. So it's looking more like Pokemon TCG Hive out here.
Yeah, I mean the history with Live has just been a disaster for Pokemon so far, right? They announced it, couldn't get anything going. It took them up until the time the beta went global. The initial regional beta should never have been released because it was unplayable. It seemed like probably about half the time from the news I could get. And even now is the global beta. It's pretty buggy. It had significant play issues for like at least 2 weeks before they sorted it out after one update where the game was almost unplayable. So I'm certainly concerned with the fact that they're adding Scarlet and Violet to live because they haven't been able to handle things in the past. So it could be a really rough period of time. Um, but I gotta say, before this announcement came, I don't enjoy at this point having PTCGO and live. I'd like to get consolidate, and the only way to do that is to migrate to live. So I was starting to think about that, and I still am. I gotta say, so I might switch to live only, and then just see how much I can play it based on what they do. But it's not great. One of the questions which we don't know the answer to, we've talked about it at times, is the whole monetization, right? Pokemon's a business and they're looking to make money, and I think that's fine. But where does the online client fit within? Because they make no money with PTCGO, and so far they're committed to not making money with live either. So therefore, it doesn't give them a lot of incentive to develop the game. So in somewhat sense, some monetization within the game would incentivize them to develop the game better. So I'm, where does it fit within the company's strategy? It's a big question. Like you said, it doesn't really seem to be a priority to them at all to this point.
Yeah, and realistically, you said the players had like a voice. Realistically, players within the whole Pokemon community as a whole, they don't really have a voice. The Pokemon events as a whole are relatively small, like competitive and gameplay focused. Pokemon is a much
Hmm.
smaller than even collecting, and obviously smaller than the video games. So it's like
Yeah.
it's not in a great spot where if you wanna be like a Pokemon player, you really need to hold a lot of ground, and it's kind of hard to do.
It can be disheartening. What I would say at this point is, to me, within a month of Scarlet and Violet coming out, they need to have a pretty good game in live within a month, let's say. Because let's say now they're really, maybe they didn't have the resources to put in, and maybe they're moving people over from one to the other even. So let's say, so if they work on it now, and like a month after the new set comes out, they need to have shown significant progress. Otherwise, I think to me they're in a, it's it's just ugly.
Yeah, I mean, live is pretty ugly.
Literally and figuratively, it's ugly at this point. So, anyway, I think we've discussed it enough, right? And you are certainly disgusted with it. So, shall we move on?
Yeah, yeah. I think so. Obviously I don't like live, but I'm interested in hearing everyone who's listening's thoughts because it's an interesting like it's a kind of a not great situation, but I don't know the solution, and they clearly don't know the solution. Well, maybe they do. If this is just miraculously fixes Pokemon, I'll be like really happy, but I'm not overconfident in that.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible when Scarlet and Violet drops, all of a sudden Live is just working flawlessly too. I wouldn't put something like that past them either. It's just been a very strange situation, but you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a big deal. It certainly affects everyone. So let us know where you're at with it.
yeah, but so now we actually have our like game show type segment. We're doing it in the middle this time. So let's see if you guys enjoy this. But we're calling this segment "Order Up" after the Pokemon move used by I think it's Dondozo. But in celebration of Scarlet and Violet, though this is not about
Okay.
Scarlet and Violet, this is about ordering different things. So we have 3 rounds. Pretty much, a person says a few different things. Say which Pokemon has more HP. Arceus, like Arceus V Star or Mawile V Star, and then it's ordered from least to most. So it'd be
Mhm.
like Mawile, then Arceus, and for HP, and then you have 2 things the first round, but you order them. 3 things the second round, and then 4 the third. And so we're each going to do this. So do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go first. So see if I can stump you with some of these. We'll see. And obviously the goal, trying to start it a little easier and get a little trickier as we move on. So So it's going to be order from least to most damage. So damage is what looking for you to order, and sticking within the realm of radiant Pokemon. So a small set of Pokemon to help you out here. So Radiant Venusaur and Radiant Halucha.
Um oh, how much does Radiant Halicha do? I've like
I
haven't
mean, these
used
these are Pokemon when they're used, it's for the ability, not the attack. So I did go a little obscure in that regard.
so Radiant Venusaur does so I know what Radiant Venusaur does, I'm pretty sure. I think it does 90 plus might do all like burn, confusion, poison, not sure. But it does some special conditions.
Hmm.
Radiant Halicha oh, and Radiant Halicha's ability also like increases the damage it does, I think. Wait, no, is that yeah, I think so. I don't think it does very much though. I think it's so leads to I think it's Radiant Hawlucha and then Venusaur is the most.
Yep, correct. You did a yeah. You Radiant Venusaur, you got it exactly correct. 90 damage, and it hits all three of those special conditions. And obviously, it lets you draw until four at the end of your turn, which is probably what it's there for
Yeah.
generally. And Radiant Halucha, your V maxes, you do 30 more damage to your opponent's active V max, which saw some play with things. And in Spiral Kick does 50 damage, so
Okay.
you got that correct.
How much is Radiant Hawlucha? Like how much does it cost? Because Radiant Venusaur is
It
four,
costs
right?
two for Radiant Halucha. It's three for Radiant
Oh,
Venusaur.
okay. Well, that I got there, so that's good.
Yeah. I mean, two energy for to do 50 damage isn't really real great there.
No, no, they're both
But good
used.
job.
Yeah, I use Radiant Venusaur in control a bunch, so
Yeah.
that's how I know it. But now this one, this isn't honestly my easy one isn't super easy, but I think it's fine. It's ordering by retreat cost here,
Okay.
and so we have two Pokemon. We have Snorlax from Crown Zenith and
Hmm.
Snorlax from Vivid Voltage.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Two
Yep.
Snorlaxes. Wow. Okay. And honestly, as we were thinking about things, I almost never retreat Pokemon. The decks I play do very little retreating, so retreat cost is something I almost completely ignore. Um, Maybe I have a switch card or something, or scoop up net. That's generally what I would do. So the cost itself, I'd usually ignore. All right, Snorlax, obviously high retreat cost.
Yep.
Um, so I from least to greatest, right?
Yep.
So I will say from Crown Zenith and then Vivid Voltage is more.
So the Crown Zenith one has a lower retreat cost.
No, Crown, yes, Crown Zenith has a lower. Yes.
Uh, no, it's actually the other end.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Snorlax usually has a retreat cost of four. The Crown Zenith Snorlax does have a retreat cost of four. Vivid Voltage is unique,
I
and
was
then it's three. Although there are some others with three.
okay. That one's only three. Okay, I was trying to. All right.
Yeah, that one's
Yep.
as I said, I play control. That one stood out to me as only having three, as Snorlax usually has four. But yeah, it's a Pokemon you like never retreat anyway, so it's kind of it's certainly it's one I wanted to include, but it wasn't as easy as it could have been certainly.
Right. I mean, I assume in control, if you need to get it out of there, you're probably scooping it up. I assume most of the time,
Yeah, we're switching Bird
or
Keeper.
switching out. Okay. All right. Well, good question there. All right. So the next round, so there's three of them, and I want you to go from least to greatest HP.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go with V Pokemon, trying to making it simple again for you. So Drapion V from that's from Lost Origin. I
Yep.
think there's more than one. Hoopa V and
Okay.
Galarian Zapdos V. HP least to
Oh,
greatest.
how much is okay? So I think oh, so let me see. I think Glen Zapdos V is 200. What was the other one? You said Drapion. Oh, it's Drapion
Drapion V.
210. And then what was and Hoopa's 220. I know that. I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it's. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's Drapion. Sorry, no, I think so from least to greatest HP, right?
Yep.
So it's Galarian Zapdos v Drapion v Hoopa v.
Wow, you got it there. Good job. I mean, these all saw some play, right? So, and they all have abilities with them, right? Galarian Zapdos, 200 HP, attack cost one colorless less per opponent's V. Drapion V from Lost Origin. Attack cost 1 less per single rapid or fusion strike. And then Hoopa V with Two Face. It's both psychic and dark at 220. So you nailed it exactly
Let's
right.
go.
Good job.
Okay, so I also actually have HPs of Pokemon V here.
Okay.
And these are three that are somewhat similar, I guess. But we have Regidrago V, Regigigas
Mm-hmm.
V, and Regieleki V.
Reggie Tringo V. Reggie
And this is order of
Alecki.
HP, least to highest.
Reggie Drago, Reggie Alecki, and Reggie.
Gigas,
What was
yeah.
the Gigas? Oh, wow. Okay. So, not Pokemon I've really played. So,
I mean, you've probably played.
go
Have you not played Regidrago in live?
not really, because I don't have. To me, it doesn't have. I don't have the right pieces to make the deck work well.
Yeah.
Just because they give you a deck, but I think the deck list is a little lacking.
Yeah,
So,
you probably have enough now. Like, it's good with Arceus, though. So,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I have Arceus now, and I actually haven't played Arceus on it, so I'll have to do that at some point with live. And obviously, you get to do that too soon when you're all forced to play live. So so HP
yep.
least to greatest. So I'll say Reggie Alecki least, Reggie Drago second, Reggie Gigas third. The
Yeah.
most.
Let me check. I don't actually remember how much HP they have, but yeah, that's right. This one was
That's
not that bad. Regieleki has 200, Draco has 220, and Gigas has 240. I think that one's not that bad. Those are the only Reggies with Vs. I was gonna do the baby Reggies, but I figured that was probably too easy. So
Yeah, I mean, I certainly played those more, and certainly play against those on a semi-regular basis. Those decks are still around and pretty good. So, all right, good. I didn't obviously call out the exact HPs, but I got the order, so I'll take it.
yeah.
All right, so the third round where you have four to put in order. Once again, I'm going with HP least to greatest. Not very creative there, but so and I'm going with stage twos just to make
Ah,
your life difficult because stage twos don't see a lot of play, right? So, but give one that we see a lot of play, and that's Archeops,
yep.
Charizard from Vivid Voltage,
hmm
Luxray from Crown Zenith,
Oh.
and Gardevoir from Chilling Reign.
Okay, so I don't know how much HP Luxray has. I know. So let's see. Archeops has 150. I'm pretty sure. Charizard has 170. I'm pretty sure it was a Gardevoir from what?
Chilling Reign.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that is 140. And I think does Luxray have 160? I think that would make sense. Unless it's like no. I think it's. Oh, you can like start it. I should. Oh no, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 160. So because I've been playing with that a lot, so I feel like I should
Right.
know that. Um, yeah. So least to greatest HP, you said.
Yep.
Okay, so Gardevoir, Archeops, Luxray, Charizard.
Very good. Yep, you got it. You nailed it. You got the HP is exactly right. Obviously, a lot of them like Archeops is everywhere. Charizard, obviously back in the day, was popular. Luxray, you've been playing with that, and Gardevoir, you've been talking about recently. So um, you have to figure out how to chance with them, but stage twos obviously are a little tricky too. So great job.
Yeah, let's go. So I think that one wasn't that bad. I think
Okay.
mine's harder. So this
Uh-oh.
is damage. So this is how much damage
Okay.
they do to any
Yep.
Pokemon in total. So if a Pokemon say did 20 damage to three different Pokemon, that would be 60
Mm.
damage. Would be how much damage it does.
Okay.
So we have four Pokemon least damage to most damage.
Yep.
And so we have Mightyena
Okay.
from it's the one that like costs less, the one that one shots Mew, right?
Okay.
The Arceus V Star,
Okay. V star. Okay.
Drapion
Yep.
V,
Mm-hmm.
and Radiant Greninja. So this is damage to any Pokemon, all in
Radiant
total.
Greninja. Okay, and Radiant Greninja. All right, it's fine. I almost never attack with it because I don't play decks attack with it. I usually use the ability, but I believe it's 90 to 2, I think. I think it's 90
So
to
then it would be
120. Then it would be 180 total if
yeah,
it's 90
if
to
it was
2.
92. Yep.
Right. Um, Arceus V Star. That one does 200.
Hmm.
So that's right. So
Yeah,
two.
yeah, and we're assuming no modifiers. Usually it doesn't actually do 200,
Right,
but
does
yeah.
two. Or I'm trying to remember. Is it do 200 or was it 220 down to? Because it right almost always has a double turbo. It does 20 less, but that's Drapion V. So where's that one at? So Drapion.
And that's part of why I knew the HP of Drapion, but this is a bit different here.
Yeah. So Drapion is going to. Okay, I think that it's probably it's less than Arceus. I'm thinking, and
Hmm.
Mighty Ina. So I think it's Radiant Greninja 1, Mighty Ina 2, Drapion 3, and Arceus 4.
Um, so I'm gonna tell you, you got it wrong. So
Okay.
but I'll give you one more, I guess, hint. Just
Okay.
self damage is damage.
All right. So, okay.
Let's see how well you know these Pokemon.
Now I'm trying to remember which one does which. So, um, hmm. So, yeah. So I'm trying to remember because I never really used them. So we're talking about Drapion or Mighty Ina does self damage. So one of them jumps up there. So, so I'll say it's is it Drapion that damages itself, and then that would swap places with Arceus.
So what's the order? What's your final answer?
So Radiant Greninja 1, Mighty Ina 2, Arceus 3, Drapion 4.
No, you were very close the second time. They actually both do self damage. So, well, so Radiant Greninja, you got
Okay.
that right. That does 180. It does 90 to 2.
Hmm.
Arceus, you also got right. It does 200, which is second, or
So that's second.
it's
Okay.
Radiant Greninja, and then Arceus, and then Medina. So it does, I
Hmm.
believe, 160 to the active, and then it does 50 to itself. So 210.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
And then Drapion V does, I believe, one. Oh, how much did it do? I should. It does 190 to the active, and then it does 60 to, I believe, one of your own benched Pokemon.
Okay. All right.
So 250
Good.
there.
250 there. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see it here. 190 plus 60. So, yep.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well,
Let's
that's a
go.
good question. So, yeah, you phrased it to me properly. So, that's just on me getting it wrong. So good job.
Yep.
Good job. You won again. So we'll have to keep. I gotta brush up on things this week to try and do better next week.
Yeah. You need to up the difficulty. All the HPs. I like knew all the HPs because I play too much Pokemon. But
Yeah, I need to come up with a more obscure stat next time, maybe.
yeah. But speaking of, I don't know if this Pokemon is not obscure, but it's not the best. I wouldn't say certainly hasn't seen the most play, but it's an interesting one. Bronzong here from Battle Styles. That's our third segment. And it's a really interesting Pokemon that I think it's partially a nostalgia Pokemon, so that's kind of why it was hyped up. But mostly it was hyped up because it just seemed good. It has its ability Metal Transfer. Bronzong is stage 1 here, Metal Pokemon.
Hmm.
As often as you like during your turn, you may move Metal Energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. And it wasn't bad. It certainly saw some play, but it wasn't great. So, but what are your thoughts on this Pokemon just as a whole?
I mean, from my experience, and to me, these Pokemon stage ones that manipulate energy they're just a disaster for me somehow. Like this moves it, which obviously it can be very very good when it gets going, and things like or like Frostmoth that accelerate, Flappy that accelerate. I never seem to have them playing when I need them. Either I can't get it set up, and then I can't. The deck doesn't work, or I get it set up and then it gets gusted and knocked out or something. So I just to me, I just have a kind of a allergic reaction to these. But Bronzong certainly had potential. When it first came out, it probably it saw some play then, and then with Cheryl, it opened up possibilities. But it didn't
They
really.
came out in the same set.
Oh, was it the same set?
Yeah,
So you
that's why
had
people are so hyped about it with Corviknight Bronzong show.
yeah, but even it just didn't really work a lot. I think I tried it a little bit with Corviknight from what I recall and Cheryl, but it didn't work often enough. Is that what I got to say for me?
Yeah. One reason, partially why Corviknight wasn't that good, was because Fire was really good as well at the time.
Yeah.
There was like Coding Metal Energy, but it's not that good. So yeah, that wasn't ideal for this deck. But I played it.
Uh, but speaking of the Corviknight deck, if I recall, I think I played Corviknight with some success, but without the Bronzong. When I chucked that, it kind of worked because that Corviknight has free retreat, if I recall. So you get four of them in play, and you had the stadium, Crystal Cave,
Yep.
and you just kind of heal them up and just shuffle them around, and just your opponent would just, you kind of just ground down your opponent.
Yeah, and that deck that was a quite a few months later. It was because Crystal Cave came out in Evolving Skies.
Was that the next one?
No, it
Yeah,
was
a
the
few couple
yeah,
after.
yeah, but that was an okay deck. That deck also, I don't know if this is how you played it, but it was somewhat of a control deck. You could play what would you? You'd play Memory Capsule, and then
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then you can copy
yeah.
Corviknight V, which stops your opponent from retreating and does 30 damage. I remember I was because I talked to a lot of control players. One of the interesting techs was I believe Team Yell Towel because generally when you're playing control, you don't want to KO your opponent's Pokemon, so you actually heal them, which is kind of funny.
Hmm.
And you want to heal them, and then you can also later double turbo energy came out, so that was a nice inclusion because then you're actually doing less damage, which again is good for you. You could actually be doing no damage and then be cycling around and stuff. So it was a pretty interesting deck, I guess. It wasn't necessarily the best, though. It didn't really apply a lot of pressure.
No, but I will just say that deck for me worked better than Bronzong Corviknight, which actually was supposed to be a good deck, but it didn't live up to it. I don't think for me or for people in general.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I've played. I'm trying to think. I played shell decks, and people have
Hmm.
definitely seen success with shell decks, but I don't think I've ever played a particularly good Bronzong Cheryl deck. I'm not sure though, but I know I've played a different variation, Bronzong Sharon's Care deck, notably
Hmm.
Bronzong with Blissey, and so some of you know I like control, but I also like weird crazy combos. So of course Blissey V accelerates energy to itself, and then
Yep.
you can Sharon's Care. Right? You play a lot of Blissey Miltank, and then you like Sharon's
Yep.
Care up the Blissey, and then you lose all your energy. Right?
Yes, right. It's a sad occasion when you scoop up the Blissey and all the energy has to get you've got to start reaccelerating again. Yes.
Yeah, so I figured out. I mean, I didn't figure out, but I decided that if you put Bronzong with it, you'd accelerate a bunch of metal energy, or you can also accelerate Aurora energy and coding
Hmm.
metal energy to Bliss if you want as well, and move it around with Bronzong. You move it off to, say, Bronzong itself. You Sharon's Care back up the Blissey into your hand, and
Hmm.
then you could send up another Blissey or like the same Blissey if you had a pivot or something. And then you could just have a fresh Blissey with all the energy still on it. This was a really big and really strong. It wasn't very consistent though, so yeah, the big issue with the Cheryl Bronzong decks is they weren't consistent, and nor is that. But that was kind of fun, and you can also Bronzong allows you to heal and preserve energy, and also have more
Yep.
versatility. But it also allows you to play a lot of tech options, especially with Aurora energy, and this is where the nostalgia factor comes in. It's very similar to Aromatisse from I want to say X on my base set. Not sure if that's true, but they
Okay.
moved fairy energy around, and this is very similar because they both moved around essentially rainbow energies, rainbow energy type cards,
Hmm.
and so you can play lots of tech Pokemon. So I'd accelerate energy to Blissey using Blissey, and then move it off to some other attacker that could be anything because you can accelerate Aurora energy, kind of like a bad version of Lugia and Archeops.
You're right. Just a harder to set up version of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I know you played it early on too with a different deck, but I think I gave it a try also with Zacian V as a main Zacian V attacking deck, trying to since you have to switch Zacian out, and if you had to switch out and switch back again, but then if you have Bronzong, you could just switch to a different Zacian. You like to do one switch, and then you could move the energy.
Yeah, that
It
seems
probably worked about as well as it sounds, but it was a thought anyway.
yeah, it's probably about as good as playing like a bunch of energy switch to just move the energies over.
Yeah, well, once you're set up, you're good to go. but getting set up wasn't gonna happen much.
Yeah, so I'll talk about another deck that also used Bronzong. Honestly, it used Bronzong pretty well, and it was what was it? It's Metagross VMAX, yes. So Metagross VMAX is a card that I've had a surprising amount of success with, but I played it. I got this list off of someone else, I think. It was a control based list, but you had a Bronzong to be able to move off the energy off from Metagross and then Cheryl. And then you can actually attack and deal damage. Same thing as the Corviknight thing, except to use Zoroark. So Zoroark, Bronzong, and then you have other tech options. And I tried that, and it was really fun. So I played that. It wasn't great, especially because it got Marnied a lot, and that wasn't good. But overall, the deck was interesting. But I think the deck that you were talking about before, the one that I played, and what you probably thought I was going to say was ADP Bronzong, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the one I think you played early on, and you did have a decent amount of success with that, I think.
Yeah, ADP Bronzong. So if you don't know ADP, we actually we might have talked about it last time, maybe not, but we talked about it recently. Debatably the best tag team, and it was really
Mhm.
good because just for a lot of reasons, most notably, you could take extra prizes and you could accelerate energy, and it was really nice. Except you needed a bit of an awkward energy requirement. You needed metal water colorless for its main attack, or just metal water for its GX attack
Mhm.
for full effect. So what you did before Bronzong and probably after Bronzong, because people didn't play Bronzong, was you'd power it up by attaching like a water energy or an aurora energy or whatever, and then you'd
Mhm.
metal saucer to a bench Zacian or whatever, probably Zacian, could be Mawile, and then you energy switch onto ADP. But there was also, and that you could do that turn one going second, but it was a bit awkward to do. So
Mhm.
there's actually a Bronzor from, I believe, Team Up. Yes, Team Up. Ability Evolutionary Advantage. If you go second, you can evolve this turn one. So you get the turn one and Bronzong out. And then what you do with turn one Bronzong is that you go ahead and Metal Saucer, and essentially the Bronzong replaces the energy switch, except now, uh, oftentimes your ADP would get hit into, and you'd be like, this isn't great because now it's just going to die next turn. But then you move all the energy off and say attack with Zacian. You can move the Aurora energies off as well. So that was really interesting. You could accelerate energy and then have tons of energy in play as well with ADP. And so you can move those around with Bronzong. And then you could also do. It was just overall very solid, except for one thing, and that is that I, as a deck builder, I like to do fun stuff. And so, me seeing Aurora energies and metal energies, I was thinking, oh, let's go Aurora toolbox with all these techs. So of course I stuck all these techs in, and the deck like didn't work anymore. So that wasn't ideal.
Yeah, I mean it was a way to take ADP and to just make it try to be hyper aggressive with it, right? To get off the Alter Creation turn one, which I mean that was kind of game over if you could do that. Now it was obviously high roll, like still when you pull it off, but you do it I guess often enough to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and it was fun. I've on quite a few occasions said I enjoyed playing ADP a lot, and this was one of my favorite builds of it. This straightforward ADP Zacian build is pretty fun to play as well, and the ADP Birds deck as well is cool. But I think ADP Bronzong is really fun. It shows off like a cool deck build. You play all these weird and arguably very bad attacks, but that was fun. There's this what was it? I think it was I played a Marshadow that you could use to like copy stuff, and it was pretty fun. But uh,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
when you pull it off, in a sense, you just out of nowhere you're crushing your opponent, which is always a fun feeling, right? To just be like, "Up the game, up, sorry, you thought you had a chance, not really. Look what I just pulled off."
yeah,
And then and it works on ladder because then you just quit all those other games and it doesn't work probably, and you're still happy at the end of the day.
yeah. You make your video and it works every game, so it's pretty
Yeah.
fun. But you've been playing Dialga, but you said you were playing the Turbo Dialga, quote unquote Turbo. It's not actually that fast. But do you
No.
think Bronzong could have a place in that list?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was thinking about that because I knew we are talking about it today, and with it, I guess then it would open up the when like turn one, you with Dialga, you want to ideally go first, start to get things set up with a bunch of Mews and switching, and hopefully some Metal Saucers, get a couple energy on Dialga. But then you end with Zacian's Intrepid Sword. If you could get Bronzong up, then you could. Right now, I don't attach to Zacian. Then I could attach an energy to Zacian and then switch it over. So would it give me an increased chance of turn two getting off the V Star power attack? Maybe it would. I'm not sure. Or is it just going to make the deck less consistent? I don't know. I think it's something worth giving a try, though.
Yeah, what I was thinking is that you'd actually go for like Cheryl Bronzong, so
Hmm.
which always works. No, but so you have Dialga, and the big issue is it just like dies, and then your
Yeah,
opponent can like hit into it 3 times, and they can still win because you're not setting up another attacker. But if you Cheryl it
yeah.
off, you're in a really good spot. And also Dialga V has a really interesting attack that accelerates. What's it do? It accelerates 2 energy, I think.
I think so. I just got logged out of PTCGO,
Oh,
so
yeah, we've
I'm
been
in the
talking
middle.
for a little while now, but yeah, PCGO is certainly not perfect. Although that's not really a big deal. But um, yeah,
Right.
I believe Dagger VX, so it's 2 energy to itself, but then it usually
Yes, I think yeah. It's first attack on the V. Yeah.
yeah, but then it gets hidden to, but often doesn't get KO'd. So then you could Bronzong off the energy, evolve Cheryl,
Yeah.
and then you could like be going with
Okay.
quite possibly enough energy to V-Star power, and you're fresh, and then you can do Bronzong, get the right amount of energy right before your Bronzong's going to die. You could Bronzong Cheryl, or you could just Bronzong to a different Pokemon. You can Bronzong to Zacian. I think that gives you more flexibility. You probably don't play Mew then, but you play probably an engine like Barrel. You could even play Gardevoir, but you probably don't have room for that. But I'd say like Barrel, Bronzong, Dialga could be pretty solid.
Yeah, I think it could be because with Dialga you get your one Dialga up and you're putting on like five energy or something to do big damage to do the V Star attack, plus just to do enough damage with your first attack. But then if it's knocked out, you're starting from scratch. You're in a lot of trouble. So being even able just to move the energy to a fresh V Star and switch into it might be worthwhile, even without using Cheryl.
Yeah, and then I think another option, just there's not really too much more to say about Dialga, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but so they're this was something that people thought was going to be good. The deck ended up okay. So it's Duraludon VMAX. People thought it was going to be good with Bronzong, and it was not good with Bronzong. But I
Hmm.
think the idea it's the same like Cheryl Aurora Energy idea, Metal Saucer idea, and honestly, I think it could be okay. People played Duraludon very simply. With Arceus, it's been gotten much stronger, but I think it's like
Yeah,
potentially solid.
I mean, I played more Duraludon than you did, and I played it early on before Arceus when you had Zacian and Duraludon, and I think the idea there, if you played Bronzong, is intre- you'd Intrepid Sword to the Zacian, and then you could move it over the next turn to the Duraludon,
Yeah, I
just
think
because it was really hard to get the energy on in that deck.
yeah. You keep saying Intrepid soaring to Zacian, but like realistically, most of the time, unless you have a Rangu, you're gonna be missing. So that's not super reliable.
Yeah, but especially I'm trying to remember with that deck. It's been a while since I played it. There's not a lot of pieces in it, so you could play a high count of metal energy though, because you have very few Pokemon in that deck.
Yeah, I think the goal was to Metal Saucer to the Duraludon, right? The Metal Duraludon.
Yeah, yeah. You played the metal for the Duraludon because you could metal sausage, and I think it takes less damage also if it's hit into. Um, but then yes, the deck played a Rangaroo. You're right. So you had a Rangaroo back at least one energy to get one energy onto Zacian at least. So yeah, that's kind of how that deck works. So, but a sketchy deck at best. So I mean, Arceus Duraludon's still a little sketchy getting set up, the old build was much sketchier.
Yeah, but I don't know if Bronzong could help it. I kind of like Bronzong. I played a lot of Fire for a long time, so like when I see Bronzong, it seems like your goes to Cheryl, and then you just get one shotted, and then you're like, oh, the whole idea of the deck is thrown out the window. But I've seen Bronzong with Arceus V-Star as well, which seems kind of
Mm.
interesting. Uh, I've certainly gotten a high rolled by that deck. Again, the Sharon's Care or a Cheryl idea where you do the move the energy off, move it back on type thing. But
Hmm.
do you think there's any future for that or not really?
Well, the one thing you said or that jumped out to me is fire used to be good, and it was good, especially because Welder was still around, and the fire Pokemon were tremendous, and they just ripped everything apart. But obviously, fire just isn't good now, so therefore, metal's in a good place. So maybe exploring Bronzong now, could be a good idea. It's certainly better positioned than it had been back when it first came out.
Yeah, I don't. And then there's still the heat proof Bronzong, which like rotated and then like came back. So um, I think it like, and there's not that much fire anyway. So
Right. So, you know, the question is, if you had it in, is it actually going to make the deck better? When Bronzong works, it'll be better, but obviously it's going to make the deck less consistent because of the Bronzong pieces. So when the Bronzong doesn't set up, you've just made your deck a little worse for it. So I'm not sure if it is a net improvement or not. That's where it's tricky,
yeah,
and I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think what metal decks. There was an Aggron from the new set. I think it was
Hmm.
okay. I don't know if people play Bronzong in that or not though. But
Yeah, the Aggron, just using that as the main attacker, right?
the stage two. Yeah.
Right, the Aggron, the VMAX,
No,
right?
this no. I'm talking about a different. I'm talking about the
Different Aggron.
a
Okay.
new from the new set. But I don't think that I don't remember what the Aggron VMAX does. But that like could play. I think the one tax spread it's pretty bad, but you could do Bronzong with that. But really, like Arceus is just better. It feels like so.
Yeah, Arceus, it's fallen off, but it's still just a great Pokemon. So both for its attack and its ability and its energy acceleration. So
Yeah,
probably just better off just playing that. But that gets boring. You don't want to just do that.
yeah. And speaking of getting boring, I think it's time we wrap up the podcast. So
Yeah,
yeah, any closing thoughts?
no. So I think that I think we covered it. So give us your comments. Obviously, we talked about live, which is, it's the future. Like it or not, it's coming. So Bronzong is not the future. I think that's fair to say. And I'll let you take us close us
Yeah,
up here.
yeah. If you say Bronzong's not the future, I'll see if I can. I'll make it. I should probably try to make it work now. I've gotten some like old Bronzong decks that I haven't tried, but because I didn't have like the other pieces before. But maybe I can make this work now. But I'm interested in, as Uncommon Fossil said, what your thoughts are on Bronzong and if you think it can work. And also with the new like sets and the new Scarlet and Violet stuff that we may or may not be able to play. Um, but also your thoughts on live and also how many of those questions did you get right? Did you get them all right or not? But as always, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Also, we're really interested in hearing if there are any other platforms you like to hear us on, and also any easy way that we can get on those platforms. But as
Yeah.
always, we hope you enjoyed, and we're excited for you to listen to the next podcast.